Hi, I'm Shalana, and this is Radical Sabbatical. I want to start off with a couple of types of sabbaticals. So maybe you'd like to take one in order to see the world. Maybe you are taking some time off to take care of your own health or the health of a loved one. Or you'd like to focus on your skills and hobbies. And the one that I took was focused on the last one, but of course, you can mix and match these as you'd like. And if you have the ability to take a sabbatical through work, I would definitely say do that. The type of sabbatical I ended up taking was all self-funded. So, yeah, we're going to go over some tips and tricks and things I learned along the way in my self-funded sabbatical. So it's 2024, and some things that led up to me wanting to take a sabbatical were in like 2018, I created a website called Spiral Betty, and it went viral several times and was a lot of fun to create, but I was making it on weekends and weeknights and sometimes taking PTO to just focus on it. And I have a lot of creative energy. And ever since then, there was just this little thing in the back of my brain that was like, wouldn't it be cool to see what you could make in some time and where you could just focus on being creative? So it felt like I had this backlog of creative ideas and that I really wanted to explore. And it was kind of in the back of my mind since 2018. Another thing that made me want to take a sabbatical is I turned 40, which was in 2024. And that milestone birthday definitely made me think, maybe this is the right time to explore those ideas. So I decided to take a 1 year creative sabbatical and to self-fund it. One thing you might ask, or if you end up taking a sabbatical, I ended up asking myself is, what do I call this thing? Because people are like, "What's up with you? What's new with your job?" Or "What are you doing nowadays?" And I was at the dental hygienist, and they're like, "Oh, right, you're unemployed." And I'm like, "That's not my favorite term." But here's some things that you could call it. So you could call it fun employed. You could call it a sabbatical, and I kind of kept reaching towards that because that's what it felt like to me, taking this break, but also focusing on leveling up some of my skills. You could call it consulting or freelancing if you are on the job market. And if it lasts long enough, you could call it retirement. What I also ended up calling it often is when my friends would say, "So, how's it going?" I would say, "You know what? It's going great in sabbatical land." And the funny thing about this slide is I'm not trying to sell you a sabbatical or taking a sabbatical, but I don't think that this comes across in this slide. It seems like I'm trying to sell it to you, but I'm not. That's definitely a personal choice you should make, but I'm very happy that I took it. Okay, so the cost to play sabbatical land or go to sabbatical land. Um, Okay, number one, if you're going to self-fund your sabbatical, this isn't about making money. You could definitely have some goals in mind that are focused on monetization, but just know going in you're going to lose money. That is a huge thing you got to wrap your head around. Um, and if anything, it's a huge PSA for your savings, and make sure that if you are able to right now, you should tuck away as much money as you can. And if you're not saving and you can save, start small. Start with like any amount. It could be $25, it could be $50. Put that off to the side. And then when you can afford to put more away, keep doing it. And it kind of becomes this amazing game where you can just kind of watch your savings grow. If you're not there yet, your savings can be so wonderful if, your car breaks down or you want to splurge a little bit on a vacation. Or in my case, you're like, I think I want to take a sabbatical. And you have this available to you or in your retirement. That I think was the most surprising thing that I found over my time is I thought I'd be scared to see my savings deplete over time, and uh, that wasn't the case, and I think that's because I planned for this. I'm like, I knew how much money was going to basically drain out of my account, and I also this part wasn't planned, but I had to like ask my financial advisor to free up the money for me whenever I needed it. So I had to give them a call, which was kind of it reminded me of my days in like college. Like, hey, I need a little bit more money. I need it for food or a jacket or something like that to my parents. So that was kind of interesting. So, before you go to sabbatical land, you should definitely decide what is the max amount of time I'd like to be on this for. So, I looked at my savings and I thought, how much of this am I willing to part with? And then looked at my monthly expenses, which would include things like, just your baseline monthly expenses. And you might need to add in insurance and pad it if you want to go on a vacation or travel during this time. And then I came to the conclusion that 2 years was the longest amount of time I would want to be on a sabbatical, but I'd prefer it to be, um, like, more around the 1-year mark, and then I've got a padding of a year to, find my next gig. When you're taking a sabbatical, you should definitely build in flexibility. At any moment, maybe you don't want to be on your sabbatical, and that's fine. Maybe you find a great position that you want to stop your sabbatical for. That's okay, and that was in my mind too. If I find the role and I am not enjoying my sabbatical anymore, then I should feel free to end it. Okay, so also another thing that I was thinking about is like if I'm going to treat myself to this sabbatical, this very expensive gift, I want to make the most of it. So what does this look like? How am I going to do a sabbatical? And the number one thing is I wanted to treat it like a job. So bare bones, that meant I was going to work Monday through Friday. When I get up, I go straight to my desk and start working. Um, Weekends were optional. I didn't set an out like a per day hourly thing. I would say that I ended up working anywhere from 4 hours to 10 hours in a day. And I found myself working 7 days a week. So I worked more than I anticipated that way, but I would go a little chiller on the weekends. And, I'd take some weekends off and some weekdays off here and there. You definitely are going to want a community if you're doing this by yourself. You're like my husband was all in favor of it, and my family was all supportive, and I had a cat that could be my coworker, which was really nice. Um, some other things that helped, I was working 7 days a week, so, playing broomball was I knew what day of the week it was by I played broomball on Tuesdays and Fridays and Saturdays, and I meet with, a friend, twice a week to lift, and that helped me chat about what was going on, which was really nice. And I meet with my German tutor on a certain day and we chat on those days about how the sabbatical is going. Just make sure that you have those things built in. I think going completely alone into it would be really hard. Professionally, I would go to JavaScript and then sometimes front end horse has like happy hours on Fridays that I would attend as well. I also wanted to make sure that this was flexible, but also had some themes that I would focus on during my sabbatical. And because this is a sabbatical and we're in sabbatical land, these themes are actually going to be places. So the places I had planned on going before I even started my sabbatical was I was going to start in Learning Lagoon. And then, actually, this is the only one that wasn't planned in advance. I then took a little detour to Advocacy Avenue, then on to Project Peak to put the stuff that I learned into action. And then Nutrition Dunes. Like I said, I turned 40, so maybe it's time to replace some bad habits with some good habits. And then Monetization Metra, which was like exploring ways to like make money online and or finding my next role and position. So let's go to that first place, which is Learning Lagoon, which is a fantastic place to start. I was so excited to get to this. I was this made me so excited. So the first thing I ended up focusing on at Learning Lagoon was I had already started 3JS Journey by Bruno Simon. It's incredible. It's really well done. I'd already been doing it for like 6 months on the side. And this was so fantastic to be able to just focus on it and finish it up. I think I finished it up in that like first month of my sabbatical. And then during the same learning theme, I was like inspired to look into Blender after doing a little bit of 3JS Journey. And this is like a render of one of the scenes I made following a YouTube tutorial. So that was fun to kind of get my feet wet there. Then I also was like, you know what is something I've always wanted to try? It's Rive.app. And we're just going to look this up. Rive. Sorry, that's a um this is a Google extension I have to the Art Institute of Chicago. But okay, so Rive.app is it kind of feels like it's trying to replace what Flash used to do for us back in the day. It's a great animating but also interactive editor, and then you can export it, and it's like it's WASM, and I'm not sure all the tech behind it, but they have their own little exports, and it's not just for the web. You can I think use it, in Unity as well and Unreal, and so that's kind of fascinating. And like here's a little example of something that's interactive, but also an incredible animation. And here too. So getting started, I mean, I went through a lot of tutorials of this, and I decided to do a study of Rosie the robot from the Jetsons, and I'll show you like here's some of the artboards, and there's timelines, and yeah, it's quite a bit, but it was a lot of fun to play around with. Here are like the eyes, and like there's gonna be this spark out of her antennas, and she's gonna walk in, and I'll show it to you in just a second. So that was a fun thing to explore. So here it is. And that's all it does, but there's just a little experiment I wanted to play around with. You hover over, and you've got this like if you click, there's this anticipation little bounce, and then you get the beeps again. And super fun to play around with. As you can re-enter. You can turn off the sound if you want, or turn it on. While I was working on this inspired me directly to go into my next phase, which was Advocacy Avenue. And it was because I wanted this to have volume control. And then I realized that you can't have that on iPhones, released on the audio API. And that made me irate. I was so mad. And I was like, you know what? I have time. I have time to advocate for better web features on iPhones. And so that's what I did. The first thing on Advocacy Avenue that I did was make the site called iOS 404. And this kind of bridges the gap between learning and project building. But if you don't already know, iPhones and iPads have a monopoly web engine. So WebKit is the only engine you have. That's it. So like Chrome is WebKit, Firefox is WebKit, Safari is obviously WebKit, but you have no access to any other rendering engines. And iPhone users just love talking about how great their phones are. And as a web dev, I would beg to differ a little bit. And I felt like I wanted it to be clear as day that um, that there are some drawbacks to having an iPhone, and this monopoly is a big one. So iOS 404, here's the website, and I'm going to go dark mode on it. But you can see how I played around a little bit with 3D. I found this like carton and edited it on Blender and exported and baked it, all that good stuff. And you can turn it and look at it. And if you go to like audio element, it says iOS volume is read only, which is ridiculous. They're like, the user should only be able to change it based on the buttons. And that's really weird because we're just asking not to go 100% on the website. So like that's such a weird thing to mandate on your iPhone. It's just so bad. And I just wanted other people to know that I'm not imagining how bad this is. So you can compare to other browsers. Your default one is Chrome for Android, but another one that's really interesting is Mac Safari Desktop, what they allow on the desktop, it won't allow on the phones. And some of these things you might say like, hey, scroll bar stuff doesn't matter, or like, hey, cursor stuff doesn't matter. But in many ways, these are accessibility issues. We're talking iPads and iPhones here, and you might want to use a mouse. Full screen API, how is that not on an iPhone? That's ridiculous. There's more than this. This is just, can I use data? Vibration API has been missing for 13 years. Like, Bluetooth, MIDI, web notifications. These things have been around for a long time and they won't support it. Sometimes they say it's for like privacy purposes, and other times, I don't know. I think they make up things from time to time about it because there are other things that are privacy related that they're totally cool with. So I just wanted to make sure it's plain as day what's missing. And you can also filter by different specs if you'd like. And it will show up in your URL and you can share that. If you just, like some people really love Firefox, although it's only a small number of people that use it on Android. Anywho, you can take a peek at what's missing compared to that as well. So while I guess, I mean, I call it Advocacy Avenue, but it's also kind of like me ranting. So in-app browsers also are kind of terrible. They're terrible. So in-app browsers are within like Instagram or Facebook. If you click on a link, it might bring you to an in-app browser if you're on a phone or an iPad or tablet device. So they turn off a lot of features and don't tell the user, which is a problem. So what I ended up doing is giving a talk about in-app browsers and how to escape them. I also made a website that helps you debug some basic things on in-app browsers. I created a library that helps you detect, and this is not an in-app browser, which is awesome. So this link, you can post on those apps and then click on this link and then kind of test things out and your escape links out of in-app browsers. So that was Advocacy Avenue. A lot going on there. We'll go on to the next one, which is Project Peak. And this is where I'm having the most fun. I'm just going to have a great time and play with the things that I learned. First one I worked on is WanderWorld. And WanderWorld is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. So WanderWorld has these streamers, and then you can just kind of like play with them. You can recolor them. You can change the pattern of them. If you go to info here, it is directly inspired by this cute little shop in the UK. So if we look at that real quick, they have these beautiful storefront windows with these streamers. And I was like, yeah, that's fun. I want to definitely do that in the digital realm as well. So these are little tiny 3D components and little some physics involved in them. We can like hide those sidebars, and we could go full screen and just, enjoy watching them if you want. Play with them, double click to make them fall again. I can get a different set of streamers and play with them and try to mix them all up and tangle them and watch them kind of come down. So, yeah. So that's Wanderwhirl. Pretty useless. A lot of fun. The whole point of my sabbatical. And okay, let's keep going. Super Snowflake Maker was the next project I worked on. Putting some things into action. This doesn't look very 3D, but I'll show you that it is. So you start drawing on this paper snowflake, and you can use a polygon tool and you can add stuff back. And you can recolor. This is shader, the like argyle pattern in the background. And you can also change the number of sections. I want more sections, less sections, and then you can like click and watch it fold up. So that's your 3D element that you can see. And then you can also, like see them snow and download various options of them. So the snapshots and the full template and the SVG option. Ton of fun. I worked super hard to get this out before Christmas of that year. And yeah, I mean, I just had a ball making this. And the next thing I worked on was a portfolio website, and so many reasons. I like kind of banged that out as fast as possible. And the reason behind it was I knew that I would probably be re-entering the workforce soon, and I wanted to make sure that people understood what I was doing during my sabbatical. And if I was in an interview and they're like, hey, what are you working on? I could be like, go to shalana.com and click on Snowflake, or go to shalana.com/snowflake, or go to shalana.com/Wanderwhirl, or an older site that inspired my sabbatical. You can learn about Spiral Betty, which is something I made a long time ago, and takes an image and turns it into a spiral. And this ends up being kind of like a way to sell your sabbatical or your other work, and be a conversation starter during that. Okay, on to the next one. So I decided to go to Nutrition Dunes. We're talking about healthier habits and focusing on that. And I decided that I would rather go to Gumdrop Pass instead and hang out there and not develop new habits. So this wasn't a big surprise. I had high hopes for Nutrition Dunes, but Gumdrop Pass is where I'm most comfortable at the moment. Maybe I will go back to Nutrition Dunes at some point. Okay, so monetization Metra was the one I was least looking forward to, but to me, success was just looking into things, how to monetize things on the web, and ultimately finding my next position, my next job would be a success. So some things I looked into, Spiral Betty experiments. I tried to do Google AdSense, but I actually got it working on the site and turned it on for my Indonesian users, and only on like every third download or something like that, because I didn't want to spam them with ads. But I found that it was really hard to not show those ads that have a green button that says download. I couldn't like turn those off fully. And I think that those are really bad, destructive ads for a downloading site. I'm sure you've seen them. And I really just didn't want those on the site. Um, and I also worked on some other things that are kind of adjacent. I really hate all those GDPR compliant cookies. So I did plausible self-hosting, which felt like, that felt like a stretch goal for a front end person to put this on the DigitalOcean droplet. And, here's Shalana.com and SparrowBetty.com for the day. Wanderworld gets some love, which is fun. And some of the other side projects are now, living here. And this would cost me a lot of money if I was going through plausible because Sparrow Betty traffic. And this is a way to make sure that I don't need to show those cookies and those banners. And also, like, it's not a free option, but it is worth it to me. I did a little bit of freelance. Someone reached out about in-app browser work. Didn't know that was going to happen, and so I started doing that. And that was at the same time that I applied and joined Livefront. And I'm so glad that I've done that. I feel like we're kindred spirits. We both care about design and details and user interaction. And I'll talk more about that on the next slide. So returning to work. Make sure you start your job hunt earlier. I started making my Shalana.com site way in advance of that 1 year mark. I think I started it around month 7 or something like that, in anticipation for applying for jobs. Because you don't have a job at the moment, they can't steal you away from another company, and less creative places they don't see that as a bonus, which I think is a bummer. So that's why you might want to sell your sabbatical. You don't have to do this, but I started explaining my sabbatical better and just kind of like starting off with like, hey, I'm on a sabbatical and this is what I'm doing. Or here, go to my website and here's one of the things I've done on my sabbatical. And I think that is a great way to do it. Or you can say you're freelancing and consulting if you want to go that route. You got to do what's best for you on that. When you return to the workforce, the pace is going to be a little bit slower than you're used to as a team of one. There's no communication that needs to happen. You're like, I want to do this, and then you do it, and then it's live. It's super fast. Working on a team, you need to make sure people are on the same page, so that's going to have some overhead, but that's just natural. But obviously, on the flip side, you're going to get this great community, and you're going to be influenced by others, which is something that I was ready for and really looking forward to when starting at Livefront. Another thing I forgot to mention is that when I interviewed with Mike, the CEO of Livefront, some of the first things he told me, he had done his homework, and he said, I really love Super Snowflake Maker. And my jaw was kind of on the floor. Like, he put the time in to look at my background. And then he's like, it looks like you're on a sabbatical. That's really cool. And yeah, it just kind of goes to that kindred spirits thing. Like, it just felt, I was like, oh, these are my people. This is a creative community that I want to be a part of. Another benefit of returning back to work is focus. I ended up doing all the things. I was the project manager, designer, developer, marketer of these sites I was creating. And now I can just focus on the part that I do the best, which is developing and making sure I'm truthful to the designs that are given to me. I came out with a profound respect for businesses and business processes and partner relationships. I'm just in awe of businesses being able to make that all work. And I had no idea I would come out with this just profound, like, that is incredible what you guys have created and have done and have maintained. I want to deeply thank you for coming along this journey with me to sabbatical land. If you're considering your own sabbatical or have any questions about anything I've chatted about, I'm happy to answer them, or you can pull me aside in the hallways and ask more questions if you'd like. Uh, Thank you again.